All right, when you enter into a real estate transaction, there is a lot of paperwork to cover. All right, sometimes we don't know exactly what it is we're signing, but we do have one that's called General Information and Notice to Buyers and Sellers. This kind of help explains everything, gives nice short little paragraphs, and kind of gives you a heads up. Some of this information you may know, and some of them you might not know. So give this a read. I know it's a little long. It's not too bad though, but we're going to cover this real quick. Okay, this form is general information notice to buyers and sellers. This is from TAR, Texas Association of RELATORS. It breaks it down into simple paragraphs, easy to understand. I don't want to read everything here. I'll try to just briefly touch on everything. The annexation usually has to do with property outside city limits. Local governments about annexing the property. Appraisals has to do with the banks. They want to make sure the property is worth what the contract sales price is. Brokers is who is actually the representatives of the buyer and seller. Agents are working on behalf of the brokers. Environmental concerns, there is usually addendums for this, like lead-based paint, mold, all this stuff here will be covered in other paperwork. Expansive soils, here in Texas, they contract, expand. There's a lot of foundation work with the houses around here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. The Foreign Investment and Real Property Tax Act. This is making sure that if you're a foreigner, they have certain paperwork they got to sign and disclose. Flood hazard, floodways, and flood insurance. There are some areas here in the Dallas-Fort Worth that are in the flood zones. Check with the agent there. They can tell you if it is or it's not. Historic or conservation districts, be aware if you buy a house in a historic, a lot of times you'll have to get, if you want to paint your house, you might have to get it approved by the city. You can't just paint it because they might say, well, though that color is not going to be acceptable in this historic district. So you just be aware of that. Inspection, repairs, and walkthroughs. Your agent will walk you through all this as well. You do want to get it inspected. It's advised that you get your house inspected or inspect the house you're going to buy. Repairs, work out with the buyer and the seller, work it out before closing, and then walk through to make sure the house is still there to begin with when you close. Mandatory Owners Association, that's the homeowners association. That could be, I guess, a condos association as well. There's actual extra paperwork for that as well. Mineral interest, we call it, is usually referred to as mineral rights. Do they convey from the seller to the buyer? There's paperwork for that as well. MLS listing service, we cover that in a different video. It's called residential data input forms. You'll notice right here, the broker agent who provides information from MLS does not verify the information. That's why you have to sign it. The seller has to sign that. And the permits, also be aware, this makes you aware that if you have a rehab job going on your property, there are some permits that need to be pulled on some of the what do you call them, trades, such as electrical, HVAC, which is air conditioning, heating, and plumbing. They all have to have permits on this with the city, most of them anyway. So just make sure you check with the city whenever you do work on the houses. Possession, I strongly advise that possession is at closing. Some people do leasebacks. I'm not a big fan of leasebacks because you enter into a whole different contract with that. It's a whole different ballgame because now you have a lease with the tenants, and no matter what's on paper, you may have troubles, and I'll explain that in another video. Property insurance. If you are the seller, make sure your property insurance is maintained all the way to closing, and if you're the buyer, just make sure you have it in place when you buy it. There's certain stipulations in there as well. Residential service contracts, this is sometimes when there's something under warranty, or you might have somebody performing maintenance that's covered under contract. That covers that right there. Restrictions on property near international border. You don't really have to worry about that here in Dallas-Fort Worth, but there are some boundaries that you want to look at that. School boundaries, the same thing. School boundaries have changed over time, so just be aware of that. Septic tanks and on-site sewer facilities. This is usually for properties out in the country or just larger lots. You may or may not have them. Most of the here in the DFW do not. All right, sex offenders and criminal activity. Listen, this is important. If you ask the agent if there's any sex offenders in the area, that's not for the agent to say, all right? He can direct you to go to this website, but that information is up to you. And here's the reason why. You can take all the information you want, base it on, okay, what the information is. Okay, great, there's no sex offenders. I'm gonna buy right here. The next day, somebody with new next door neighbor may have been convicted as a sex offender. All right, so this is gonna be up to you to look at that information, as well as looking at the criminal activity with the local police department. All right? I don't want to say that the agent doesn't care, but that's not the responsibility. You need to make a determination of where you want to buy here on your own. All right, square footage. The square footage is usually disclosed from tax footage, sometimes from appraisal, but it is the buyer's responsibility to actually look at the square footage and verify square footage when they're buying the place. All right. Statutory tax districts. This goes over what they call a MUDs, municipal utility district. There's paperwork involved in that as well. Surveillance. If you record or take pictures without the other person's knowledge, you may be doing something that's not right. Just check with your attorney on that. Synthetic stucco, we don't really do much with it right here, so I won't get into that, but I'll look into it and cover it later. Tax prorations, okay. The taxes only on a property are only paid at the end of the year, okay. So the whole year they accumulate the tax, and then you'll get a tax bill. So if you decide to sell your house halfway through the year, exactly halfway through the year, you have accumulated taxes for half the year. So what's going to happen is you're going to have to wind up crediting your half of the tax to the buyer. And I say have to. This is also negotiable as well. But normally, under normal circumstances, you got to pay taxes for whenever you were there at that property. All right, so they'll credit the buyer, and the buyer receive the funds at closing, and then the buyer will get the bill for the whole tax year at the end of the year. All right, so if he owes $4,000, if he owes $4,000 for the entire year, in June or whatever half the year is, they're going to take $2,000 from you on your proceeds and credit it to him. Now that has nothing to do with the sales price. That's just to make sure that you paid your taxes for that half, and the buyer pays the other $2,000 at the end. But the buyer will actually pay the bill. But again, you would have credited him half of that. Termination option, that is you usually have an option period to go through or terminate the contract, and that's covered in another video as well. Tidewaters, we don't really deal too much of that around here in DFW, although there are some areas. Again, you'll have that flood zones for with the map, and the agents can help you out with that. Title insurance or abstract of title, very important. I'll cover that in detail in another video. But you do want to make sure that you get title insurance. But if you're paying cash, you still want to get that title insurance. I strongly recommend you get that. Utilities. This is just for your water, electric. Make sure that there's, and make sure some of the areas may not have it. Like you might have a building out there that doesn't have it. Just make sure you know what has it, what doesn't have it, and where to get them. Water fluctuations, again, has to do with the flood areas. The agent gets you with that. Water wells. I miss water wells. Let's see, the property has a water well, the buyer should have, and the lender may require the equipment inspected and water tested. That's just making sure that the water coming out of the well is good to drink, as most of them drink it. Wire fraud, this is covered in a different video. We're just making sure that all the instructions from and to, you need to verify as the buyer or the seller. All right, and so once all that's done, the broker prints his name and signs it, as well as the buyer and or the seller they represent. That wasn't too bad, was it? All right, I hope that helped. All right, my name is Gerald Enriquez, and I am a licensed real estate agent here in the state of Texas. And I hope you got some value out of that video tutorial. If you have any questions and or concerns, by all means, feel free to contact me. On my information should be here on this page or on my About page. Send me your questions, and I'll try to cover it in another video. That way, if somebody else has that same questions, they can benefit it as well. Also, take a look around this YouTube channel. You might already see some questions that already are answered. Whether you decide to use me or not, you should be able to benefit from this. You or anybody else that's planning on buying or selling a house. All right, take care and God bless.